Listen, just one more thing.
Hello there. Welcome to my review of Columbo Season 10, Episode 3, Columbo and the Murder of a Rock Star. First broadcast on the 29th of April 1991 on ABC. It was written by returning writer William Reed Woodfield and directed by returning director Alan J. Levi. The episode begins with a tour of said rock star's beach house, before settling on said rock star, Marcy Edwards, in bed with a guy, before it's revealed that they are being watched by a hidden camera, by a private detective, Sam Marlowe, and Hugh Crichton, played by Dabney Coleman, returning to Columbo after his brief appearance as Detective Murray in Double Shock. Crichton is Marcy's lover, and he thought he was the only one. That evening, Marcy goes to his home and discovers her bags waiting outside and the locks changed. At Crichton's construction site the next day, Marcy catches up with him, and he sends her packing. We discover he's actually a lawyer investing in the building, and Marcy threatens him.
I'll give you a headline. America's most famous lawyer buys cops, judges, witnesses, and prosecutors. It'll be your word against mine.
She wants $5 million in cash, and until he can come up with it, he is to act as if they are still happily together. We have our motive, and it doesn't take Crichton long to begin setting up the murder. He checks his gardener's schedule, dopes a bottle of champagne with sleeping drugs, and the next morning doses her tea with something else. She then goes to the beach with her lover, and he follows the gardener, stealing his truck, and also heads to the beach house. I have to be honest, watching Marcy and her rock star boyfriend carry on kind of makes me root for Crichton at this point.
Okay.
As he turns up and kills Marcy, framing the boyfriend, who has passed out from the chloroform-laced champagne. That night, the boyfriend wakes up and takes off when he discovers Marcy's body. The next day, Columbo arrives on the scene, and immediately thinks it's odd they opened both champagne bottles in the kitchen, which of course they didn't. Columbo discovers Crichton isn't just a lawyer, he's a lawyer who's never lost a murder case, and catches up with him just as he's giving his summation on his latest case.
And your solemn deliberations, if you listen to his voice, as I have, by the way.
I'm adjourning this court until tomorrow morning at 10.
Who the hell is that?
I don't know. What's going on?
And his co-counsel is Trish Fairbanks, played by Shera Denese. Columbo informs Crichton about Marcy's murder, and he acts dutifully shocked. And later that day, Trish approaches him and tells him she knows he killed Marcy, but she doesn't want to expose him. She wants to blackmail him with a full partnership in the business and in life. Columbo is called to see his chief, played by a returning John Finnegan, who wants Columbo to share all his information with Crichton as the two are old friends. What I like about these plot points is that they give an extra twist to a normal episode plot, similar to plot points of previous episodes, but expanding on them to create a different tension other than the usual detective-killer dynamic. Columbo goes back to the murder scene and speaks with the cleaner, noticing several details, including where the hidden camera was hidden. Columbo then visits Crichton at his office, where Trish is making some dramatic changes. It seems like Crichton was better off with Marcy. Columbo then tracks down Marcy's boyfriend, Neddy Malcolm, who makes a run for it. So Columbo manages to find the girl he was staying with in a dive bar, and we are treated to one of the oddest crazes in Americana, employing a girl to act as a mermaid in a fish tank. I think this started in a club called Bimbo's 365 Club in San Francisco, but I've seen it portrayed in a number of different shows from the 90s with virtually no explanation, and I still find it weird. As if things couldn't get any weirder, she directs him to a different club where Neddy is working for a guy called Little Richard, and it's the real Little Richard.
I'm looking for Nettie. I'm supposed to meet him here.
Haven't seen him in 10, 12 weeks. Well, I'll put the word out.
Columbo eventually catches up with Neddy and, upon questioning him, believes his story. He then tracks down the PI Crichton used, and he's starting to put together an idea of what happened. He tells Crichton everything he knows so far. Well, not everything, but everything Crichton needs to know to be lured in. His next step is to accuse Crichton, which spooks Crichton into going to the DA and trying to pressure him to arrest Neddy. And in an unusual move, Columbo tells the DA in front of Crichton that he knows Crichton did it, and asks Crichton for an alibi. He claims to have been driving miles away from the scene of the crime, but of course can't prove it, until Trish is able to provide a speeding ticket from a speed camera with his photo at the time of the murder. At this point, the story becomes a mystery for us as well as Columbo. He checks the authenticity of the ticket and it's genuine, but Columbo spots something is not quite right. He goes back to Crichton and presents him with his evidence that Crichton faked the speeding ticket, and how. Trish was the one driving his car on the day of the murder, and he drove hers. She was wearing a mask of his face, deliberately speeding to get caught on camera, to act as his alibi. This is another excellent episode with great chemistry between Coleman and Falk as they spar from their respective positions of power. The whole cast does a great job, with support from Danese on Crichton's side and Sondra Curry as Sergeant Hubach on Columbo's side. There's also a lot of detection to be done here, and it's orchestrated in such a way as to never be confusing. The clues are quite densely packed into the episode, so you do have to pay attention. The humour is well balanced as we get some great scenes of Columbo dealing with an exasperated cleaner, ordering whatever he likes at a fancy restaurant because he isn't paying, and being taken for a ride by Crichton, possibly a worse driver than Columbo himself. There is a problem though. Two actually. The first is that in order to move around unseen, Crichton steals the truck of the gardener from another job to drive to Marcy's to kill her, then puts it back on the wrong street. No explanation is given as to why he does this, and it seems like a pretty big mistake on his part. Secondly, and more importantly, Trish provides his alibi by wearing a mask of his face and getting caught speeding at the time of the murder, many miles away. Why on earth did she do that without explanation? And how did he expect to get away with asking her to do that without her working out that he murdered Marcy? That really doesn't make sense to me and could have been solved with just a few simple plot adjustments. Having said that, it's still not quite enough to spoil the episode for me, as it's a very enjoyable watch, and for that reason, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. Thank you. Goodbye.